And we're live. Okay. Where technology is working. Technology today is our friend, or more specifically, it is my friend because last time technology just took a huge dump in the middle of my quote unquote studio and didn't allow me to do anything worthwhile. And we ended up having to cancel the stream after like an hour. But we're back now and we're ready to talk John Carpenter's Apocalypse series. I got Ryan Daly, longtime friend of the show and personal friend, and of course Bill Bangle, another longtime friend of the show. And we're ready to talk some Carpenter. We're waiting for one more person. He must be running a little bit along, but time waits for no man. So let's get it going. Are you ready to talk some Apocalypse?
Let's do it.
All right. All right, so Night Watch isn't here yet. Let's get it going.
Fine.
So this is one of hold on, we got Eric. Eric's already in the house, friend of the show. All right, boys, let's do this. Thing is my favorite Carpenter movie after Big Trouble in Little.
Yes, because that's my favorite too.
We have every time we bring up Carpenter.
That's
Everyone wants to talk about that movie now.
That's it. I love that movie.
Maybe we'll get around to it. We'll have to.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so. Now, this is a movie that I've probably seen. I was talking the night after the live stream crashed, and then we tried to get on Zoom, and then you guys took off, and then Knight and I were there for a minute or two, and I was saying I've probably seen this movie 25 times. And Knight kind of laughed because he's probably seen that in the past 3-4 years. Yeah. He's seen it 25 times. Oh, hold on, here he is. Let's let him in. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
All right,
hey guys.
Technology is our friend tonight, brother.
It's always our friend.
Yeah, well, it's not always. Not last. Well, not my friend. Not my friend. Okay.
Me neither.
So I was just saying, you and I were talking after everything fell apart last week, and I was saying I'd seen it 25 times, and I think you said 25 times in the past 2 years for yourself, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So it's kind of different the way I was looking at it this time. And so, I mean, bearing in mind that this is the first of 3 episodes that we're going to do on an Apocalypse trilogy, I'm thinking in a broader sense.
Yeah.
And this is the end of the world. One version of Carpenter's, vision for literally bringing mankind to a halt.
Right.
And in this, I think we're sort of examining the death of the individual. I could see it sort of played out that way. When we get to Prince of Darkness, we're talking about the death of God, maybe. And then by the time you get to the Mouth of Madness, you're talking about the death of reality. Because what you understand is reality really isn't reality at all. Have any of you ever? It's a quick question. Have any of you ever noticed that the 3 timelines are connected?
No.
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 They don't.
No, I can't say that I know. You mean
Where'd
like
you hear that?
you mean like
I didn't. I'm just posing the question.
Oh, I was about to
no.
say, oh my gosh, man, I really missed out.
Yeah.
What version do you have exactly?
Yeah, like, okay.
Let me borrow that.
Do you mean like the same universe?
Yeah, the same universe. I mean, you have 3 apocalyptic events.
Okay, I can buy that.
I'm wondering, is this the same reality? We're in, at least 2 of the 3, and I haven't seen Madness in a while, and I'll have to watch it again to prep for the episode. But it's there's an ambiguous ending as to whether the apocalypse has been halted or delayed.
Right.
Has man managed to kick, in this last desperate effort to kick the can down the road,
right.
And sort of delay the inevitable. So, that was just something I was wondering. But, one of the things I noticed first, and when I watched it recently in preparation for last week, was that essentially the story's over in the first 10 minutes. And I don't know if anybody picks up on that. But that dog makes contact with Bennings and Clark within the first 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
Yeah, if you figured it out from the start, it's over.
Yeah.
You see him go into the room. That's like an obvious sort of...
What? Yeah.
He goes into the guy's room, and you're like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. And it's always kind of left ambiguous as to who it is, because the shadow on the wall, like I've heard this from Carpenter too, like they always kind of left it ambiguous. Is it Palmer? It looks like Palmer, or is it Norris? Which guy is it? And Carpenter never says. He never says.
I assume it's Clark.
Clark's not infected.
No, but I didn't. I'm wondering if that's a throwaway. Now understanding, having seen it for almost 40 years.
Right.
You know,
he was the red herring, because everyone thought he would be the definitive person infected. And Richard Major, who played him, had said that was intentional, to have him play it kind of, because he was kind of creepy, but that was really part of his character as far as being, and it also attracted him to the role, being more in touch with the dogs than humans, so it like all played into the viewers, especially the first time, thinking this guy has to be fanged, as they say. And same thing with Wilford Brimley. He was suspicious of Clark the whole time.
Well, I saw something recently where they kind of had a video. There's thousands of videos on YouTube, but they broke one. They have this one where they broke down the time that every character was infected.
Yes.
And I thought, and it never occurred to me, Blair, the minute he gets infected is when they find the thing and they got it on the table and he's pointing at it with his pencil and he absently sticks the pencil against his lip. And they're like, that's the minute, that's the moment where because that's what it is, the slightest particle, and boom, But it's really interesting how it broke it down with each character, when they could have, been infected with this thing,
and hold on, we got Eric here. Eric's here visiting the show as always, and he's let's see what we got. Wait, where's his comment?
Hey, Eric.
I came late to the party. What's up, Eric? I saw it for the first time in the last 5 years. Okay.
Wow.
But now I've seen it a handful of times. Love it that much. And Coriander's here. So thanks for stopping by, Coriander. She's saying, hey, Carpenter's incredible. Love the thing. Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. Okay, so we got another Big Trouble in Little China fan. Okay. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So welcome to the show, Coriander, and you got tons of support here for Big Trouble in Little China. There's no shortage. Now,
right.
The thing about this movie, Eric, is that it doesn't matter that you only first saw it 5 years ago. That thing holds up.
Exactly.
Nobody's business.
Yeah.
I just watched it again last week, and I was amazed at how good of a film it is, and the fact that it's set so remote. There's so little that ages it. I mean, it's obviously 80s if you look into it, but it's vague enough that it could be last year.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing too is that when the movie came out, it didn't do well at all. It bombed. And Carpenter was crushed by it because he had put so much into it, and it almost ended his career because it was he took it so hard. Yeah. But then, people started reevaluating it and seeing it for how good it is and how awesome it is. So it paid off.
The best part about that movie is it came out right when a lot of people were getting HBO, which is where I saw it over and over. That was like the year we got HBO. That was one of the big movies. My whole family got into it. My brothers, my cousins, It's like one of those movies we carry around like Apocalypse Now and reference all the time. Because we could sit there and see it over and over and over on HBO. And I think that turned the theatrical sleeper into a cult hit because it was available to us as 12-year-olds. We could watch it over and over again.
Right. Well, the unfortunate thing about it too, coming out in 1982, it probably came out in like the worst year ever.
Oh yeah,
because you literally had so many movies jockeying for position. You had Blade Runner, you had Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, you had Rocky III, you had First Blood, and of course the champion of them all was E.T.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
People were conditioned to look at an alien in a positive light, and of course this is something that's totally the opposite, and of course just the grimy, bits and pieces, the gooey, oozy things in the movie, it turned people off.
Go ahead, Mike. Here's the thing, especially when it comes to E.T. I mean, it came out a couple of weeks, I think, after E.T. was released, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And so the timing was, I think it could have survived any of those other movies. But to come out after E.T., which was like, the Forrest Gump of its time, in the sense that it overshadowed like everything, and so there were so many other good movies that came along in that year that, people just sort of, pushed to the side because, they were just stuck on
weekend, right?
What's something that? Along those lines.
It's Memorial Day weekend, so it comes out like in the middle of the summer. If they had held off for like a Halloween release, that would have sealed it.
Well, and also, sometimes they do that. They'll release two movies two sci-fi movies, E.T. and Thing. They know E.T. is going to do better. They'll release. It's like a race to get out which one first. Like in the case of Tombstone and Wyatt Earp. They put out Tombstone a whole year before Wyatt Earp, and Tombstone is an awesome movie, and it came out a year before, so everybody was already liking that one, and not liking Wyatt Earp. I think they were originally going to do that with Alexander, because there was Oliver Stone's version, and then there was going to be a Leonardo DiCaprio version at the same time, and then they finally pulled the DiCaprio one. Because it was like a race to see who. Because if you get your movie out first, and it's similar in concept, people are going to flock to that one first, and and the thing tanked. Now, what I've never seen is the original Thing from 1951. But from what Marshall Dillon is the alien, but from this. Is one of the few times where the remake, I think, is like way better than the original movie. Because I think they toned a lot of it. Obviously, in 1951, half of what they did in the Carpenter one isn't in there. We're not seeing heads being pulled off and, these crazy transformations and stuff.
Here's the thing. I mean, you're talking about, and Eric is leaving a comment here about the practical effects. But here's the thing, and especially compared to the other movies that Knight was talking about and E.T. and everything, the Thing is essentially a microbe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not visible to the human eye. The thing that's possibly bringing the end of the world into play is something you can't even see. It exists, under a microscope slide.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not Godzilla. It's not the devil. It's anything like that. It's something that people are completely unprepared for. You start to have these really heavy themes. I think from Lovecraft, and I've talked a little bit about Lovecraft here on the show. But this idea that the universe is just chock full of monsters that mankind is just completely unprepared for. And made insignificant by. This is nothing you can handle with the Marines. It's not like James Cameron's Alien. It's not like Ridley Scott. Hudson have no impact here. You have a Hudson. No disrespect. No disrespect to Bill Paxton, his birthday just passed.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's this thing that you can't see that is, and that's what sort of makes it so effective because it's an intangible.
Right. Yeah. Now,
what's so cool is it's a reversal of War of the Worlds. Because if you watch the original War of the Worlds, it was our microbes that killed the aliens. So this is like a weird flip where we are being undone by microbes.
Yeah.
Now, what I'd like to do sometime is read the novel that this was based on.
Who Goes There?
Who Goes There? It was written it was published in 1938. And from what the research that I did on it, the movie follows the plot of the book fairly closely, you know. And I mean, some of the character names they use, I think McCready is one of like 20 some people who are at the research station, you know, but there's Blair and you know, so it hits all the points, and they do the copper test and all that kind of stuff. But I'd like to read it because for a story for 1938, it sounds pretty wild. You know, but it's just, there's so much cool about this movie. There's so many, and the practical effects, like that person just pointed out, that what was that guy's name? Rob Bottin.
Rob Bottin.
Was he a protege of Stan Winston?
No, he was a protege of
Rick Baker.
Rick Baker.
Baker. Okay, yeah. I mean, and I'll admit, the first time I saw the thing was as an adult. It's on our Halloween rotation. We watch every Halloween. We watch the same movie. So my wife and I watched it one night, and it just knocked my socks off. And I watch it all the time now, every year. And those practical effects, I mean, some of them I could see could be regarded as a little cheesy, like the dog one's a little, but holy shit, the scene where Callahan is on that table and the mouth opens up and bites off Copper's arms, and then his head detaches from his body, and then you see the other one come up out of him. That is amazing.
See, but see, that's what I disagree with you a little bit on, because it was the scene with the dogs that drew me in.
Oh, okay.
Being an animal lover, you know, and seeing this cruel thing happen to these dogs that are trying desperately to get away. That was kind of the introduction to, like, because you had never seen anything like this happen before. You know, it was very graphic. It was very graphic what was happening to those animals, you know, and I was just like, holy shit. And like even now, you know, when you see Kurt Russell shoot those dogs, you know, and like Clark has that fucking reaction, and he's like, no, you know, and he jumps on him, but it's the right thing to do, you know, because the animals are just suffering, you know, and it's horrible.
You're manipulated and misdirected from the minute the movie starts, because you're drawn in by, why are these guys in a helicopter chasing this poor dog? It starts out where you're like, these guys are assholes, and those guys are assholes. This dog is awesome, and then its face comes off.
And it takes its time to do that too, because you know that scene is you know
30 minutes in,
20 minutes at least 20 something minutes in. So you really, you know, it takes its time to make you really sit on that idea of, geez, man, why are they after this dog? You know, he's just a dog. He's cute, you know, and all that type of stuff. But that scene was done by Stan Winston with the dog thing, because Rob Bottin had so many effects that he was doing. The guy was working day and night. He actually got sick by the end of the shoot, had to go to the hospital. And Stan Winston came in to help out a little bit and did that scene with the dog thing. And you know, just fantastic. This was a fantastic time in movies. You know, for imagination, it really was.
Yeah, there it is.
There he is.
You know what else I like about this movie too is I think it's very claustrophobic.
Yes.
You know, it's very, like, from beginning to end, these guys are in tight spaces. There's a lot of tension. That scene where the dog is walking down the hallway and goes into the room, I mean, just the way it's filmed, it's quiet, and it's just, you know, a lot of cool shots. almost like a voyeuristic, like something is watching them kind of thing. Like that's the vibe I get when that dog's coming down the hallway. It's almost like the thing is watching it, or part of the thing is watching it, as it, it's a claustrophobic movie, and it also has it's got those great moments when you're like, it's just so tense.
Well, I think what contributes to that is the fact that it's an all-male cast.
Yeah. There's a lot of testosterone.
There's no counterbalance from like any sort of female perspective or anything else.
Right.
There's no emoting really, except through this like anger and fear. And everything is just kind of bottled up. And McCready's never met a bottle of what is that J and B that he did, that he didn't like. He starts off drinking some J and B. So you've got these guys these couple guys that are potheads over here. You got McCready, and everybody's kind of, even within the isolation, people are still isolating.
Yes, that's true.
McCready is way up there by himself, drinking J and B and trying to play chess, and the other guys are smoking weed, and nobody's talking because it's a room full of guys. The intro scene where they're all playing ping pong. And, the one guy's like roller skating. There's like no dialogue, which is the perfect setup for like having 10 guys. Like nobody would talk. And there wouldn't be the slightest bit of discomfort about it either. It's like, what are you talking for? Shut up! You talk too much.
I saw somebody pointed out on the messages here the paranoia. I think that is the main driving force behind this, and like it always gets me, that scene where McCready shoots Clark in the head, because you're not expecting it, and it's always like a bam, and you're like, oh snap. I mean, there's moments like that throughout all the computer.
and that's voiced by Adrienne Barbeau.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, she was Mrs. John Carpenter at the time, so yeah.
Back from the fog, man. Yeah. All right. Nothing wrong with that.
And my thing is too is that, and I know this theory has popped up a lot on the internet, is who really killed Fuchs? Did Fuchs kill himself, or did Blair do it? Because I think at that time, Blair's locked in the shed outside because he's going nutty. And Fuchs, all they find is his burned corpse in the glasses. And that's another thing Carpenter never says. He's never said to this day, did Fuchs kill himself? Or because burning the thing is the way to kill it.
Right.
So, I mean, he knew how to do it because they burned. Who was the first guy? Bennings or whatever.
Bennings,
they burned him, and
with that hand, he's got that hand.
That's a freaky scene too, where he's like, and he makes that sound. That sound is fantastic. But there's like the mystery, kind of like, did Fuchs kill himself, or did Blair kill Fuchs to shut him up, or we don't know. It's one of the great kind of ambiguities in this movie, and it always keeps you guessing. And 40 years later, it's still talked about in all kinds of forums and everything else, like we're doing right now.
The movie's so deep that it was its own worst enemy, because everyone focused on the special effects and being so gross and so just so over the top, that people might have missed the brilliant cinematography, the brilliant scripting, the brilliant way they sewed up all the tension with the characters and did all the characterizations without dialogue, without narration, without a lot of just wasted time. You understood what these guys were, and then the dog's head explodes, and people went, "Ew, that's gross," and then falls apart.
That's just what I wanted to get to. How absolutely lean and tight that script is.
Yes, it is.
It doesn't get nearly enough credit.
Did he write this script? Did Carpenter write it?
No.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure who wrote it, but
who did write? Does anybody know?
I believe it was Bill Lancaster. Who's Burt Lancaster's son.
Bill Lancaster, yeah. Bill Lancaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And what attracted him to the script, what attracted him to the project, wasn't really, the special effects and the alien aspect of it, but it was more about the relationship between the guys and that feeling of isolation and of course the paranoia. And that's really what his focus was in writing it, and you can see that in the film. I mean, that is so evident. I mean, I think this is just such a great example of multiple great creators coming together, because he did a great job with the script. Rob Bottin did things that had never been done. As a matter of fact, when they storyboarded it, John Carpenter said to him, "Do you know how to do all these things you're talking about doing?" And he said, "No, I don't." And he says, "But I'll figure it out." And so they put the blood, sweat, and tears into it. And of course, Carpenter, with his craftsmanship, I mean, and of course the actors, all of the actors, they spent so much time together even before they started shooting. So they really did form a bond, and it's evident in the film.
Yeah, and I like that. I like the ensemble, and I like that he could get these, because all these guys in the movie were respected actors at the time. I mean, I had never heard of some of them. I had never heard of the guy who played Bennings or Fuchs or Windows or Palmer, but the other guys were all established actors. I think some of those guys were theater actors, but they were all established. They were all good. And like, I think some people kind of tend to like write off John Carpenter as like, nah, but he gets good actors for his movies.
He does.
Obviously he's doing something right, because he gets good actors. I mean, for his stuff. So
if you see The Fog, it's practically an ensemble.
Yes.
A lot of his movies. It starts off with John Houseman telling a scary story. It scared the shit out of me. Like the first 5 minutes of that movie. I'm like, oh, fucking John Houseman, holy shit. And I'm like, stop, man, stop telling the story. You're freaking me out, bro. Hal Holbrook, I mean.
Yes.
But how do you get Hal Holbrook in a horror movie? He did it.
Right. But this is one of those movies, where it's an ensemble piece, and it's like one of those classic, just bunch of guys movies.
Okay.
It's like
with Kurt Russell, though. I know he was trying to shed his Disney image.
Yeah. Well, he certainly did.
The year before, he was playing Snake Plissken, and basically the character looks like and comes across as Snake Plissken without the eye patch.
Yeah.
He could have gone a different direction with like the haircut or the beard or something, and still pulled off the tough guy image. And I think a lot of people went, "Oh, this is another repeat of that crazy Escape from New York from last year or 8 months ago."
It's actually a far better movie. Now, there's one character I wanted to talk about specifically. I'm fine with talking about anybody, but that is, and Eric just brought it up, Keith David.
Childs.
Yeah. Slowly but surely over the years, Childs he may be becoming my favorite character in this movie. He's kind of the foil to Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little more hot-tempered, but I'm trying to think. I really didn't see anything he did aside being hot-tempered that was all that irrational. And he nails it so perfectly when he says, if I was an imitation, he states the case so perfectly. A perfect imitation. How would you know?
Yes. That was such a haunting line.
Yeah. That might have been the best line of the movie. I would pair it up there with Kurt Russell recording that sort of last message that he leaves. Everybody's very tired and we're scared. This is R.J. McCready. But I think those are the two best lines in the film. And they sort of had this antagonistic relationship where I would argue, he sort of, steps up to sort of an equal role. He doesn't fold very easily, although the script often, goes to Kurt Russell's favor.
Right?
But he's a great, it's a great performance, and he's a great actor.
I love Keith David.
I mean, when we see him with that flamethrower in the dog pen.
Yeah.
He's one of the more he probably is next to Kurt Russell, probably the most active character.
He could be. I mean, it could be argued that. I mean, well, he is a deuteragonist with McCready. Those are the two main guys.
Right.
I mean, you could argue to some degree that maybe Childs is the hero. I don't know. I mean,
as I go on with it, I start to see them as equals.
Yeah.
I start to see them as equals.
At the end, that was the latest theory I read, was that McCready actually had put gasoline into the scotch bottle.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Him to see if he was a copy, he wouldn't know what scotch tasted like, and that's how he kind of knew at the end that they were both going to die, and they should die because he was actually the thing. He was.
I hadn't heard that before. I never heard that.
Yeah, I also heard another theory that, and I think it's been debunked, is that in that final scene where they're in the snow, you can't see Child's breath, and that's what gives it away. However, there is another theory, and I didn't think of this. Remember in the movie when there is that theory that McCready is actually the one who is the thing, because doesn't Childs find his coat out in the snow? I thought they said it was McCready's coat. But again, it's never, I don't think it's ever explicitly stated. And, to this day, that ending is so fantastic because it's just so ambiguous. Yes. And I think, there's been thousands of times that they've asked Keith David about it. And I think and Carpenter, and I think both of them are just like, that's up to you. I mean, it's up to you.
That's cool. That's the best way to play it, I think.
It really is.
Now, there's an alternate ending. I don't know if people know about this, where apparently McCready tests positive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And apparently they decided that they wouldn't use that because it completely, would have been a different movie and sort of ended. I mean, to have seen that it's affirmative. And I like, the ambiguous ending, and we'll talk about, that next week also with Prince of Darkness, that you're not really sure. You're not really sure. Have they kicked the can down the road, like I was saying at the beginning, or is it, or is it too late? That sort of thing. Now, one of the things that
No, go ahead, Mike.
One of the things when everything was so effed up last week, after you two had bolted from the Zoom meet, the attempt at that, Knight and I were talking, and I posed that question as to whether or not, do you feel that these people even knew that was the assimilation so perfect that, do you feel that these people knew that they were assimilated?
No, because because the thing, part of what it does is it replicates your memories. It replicates everything about you down to the smallest particle. So once you're assimilated, you have no knowledge of it.
Although there is a theory.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there is a theory, and Charlie Hallahan talked about how in that scene where they were going to give control, and oh my God, and Gary would put the gun down. He said, well, I think you guys will probably be more happy if I'm not in charge. And then he looked at Norris and he says, I don't see anyone having any issue with you. And when you watch that scene, Charlie Hallahan, he kind of like looks down, and he says, and then he looks up and he says, I don't think I'm up to it, guys. And according to what he was saying, the way he played it, or at least what he was thinking is that somehow, maybe subconsciously, Norris was still in there and kind of knew that he was infected. Now that's just, as the actor talking about how he played it. I don't know if that's how Carpenter intended it, or Bill Lancaster when he wrote it. But it's interesting stuff to think about.
I have to watch that, because that's something that you normally, I think, would not notice.
Yes, exactly.
When you're watching it.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was already thinged at that point.
Yeah.
So his way of thinking about it was, well, obviously the Thing would take advantage of that situation, because if he can get the gun and he's the leader, he would be further away from suspicion. But yeah, it's interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah.
So I take it the consensus thinking is that you don't know you're assimilated until the thing inside you moves forward.
I guess,
you know, steps
until
to
it
sort of the
reveals
forefront.
itself.
Yeah, until it's like Wilford Brimley at the end.
Yeah.
You know, and he sort of seizes on Gary.
Yeah.
You know, and you know that whole thing.
Well,
so
and like,
you don't know until you know it sort of steps forward into your personality and then just sort of takes over. That's interesting.
Yeah, and then like when in the very famous, I think it's the most perfect scene of the whole movie, the copper test, the copper wire blood test. That the thing wasn't ready to expose itself there, and you could see like in Palmer's face, and he's like, "Shit, I got nowhere to go." And then when it hits, and the thing, and then he just, and it's, I think that's they scared it out, and it wasn't ready to be revealed at that point.
Because right before Kurt Russell put the wire in it, you saw Palmer's face, and he kind of had that look like, you know what I mean, right before, because he knew, you know,
and then he half eats poor Windows. Poor Windows. He was like the most underdeveloped character. Windows. He just ran, you know, and then they had to flame him too. But you know.
Wait a minute. If you go all the way back to the beginning, the dog is walking around with intention. It's obviously the thing. It's obviously self-aware that it is this thing, and it's looking to spread into new victims. So wouldn't that be the case with people?
Yeah.
Good point.
You know,
unless it's a question of will, you know, which I never really thought about until you just said that. You know, obviously a dog, you know, you would think that a dog could be more easily controlled than a human.
Yeah.
And plus we don't know how long the dog had been the thing. It might be a question of how long you've been fanged.
Well, now I think that actually plays into, and I refuse to see that shitty prequel, but apparently the prequel ends with the dog.
Yes.
So the guy in the helicopter is chasing the dog, and they're shooting at it.
Yeah. So this movie takes place right after the prequel. So I guess the dog hasn't been thinged for very long. If you go by that, I refuse to see it. It's just unnecessary.
Well, I will say this, and I know we're not talking about the prequel, but I will say this because, and obviously, Mike, you know, we did a review on it. We did a review on the thing and the prequel. It's not as good as this movie.
No, absolutely. But it's not terrible. It's not terrible.
Yes, it's not that terrible.
It's not terrible.
Okay.
The only thing that for me as such a huge fan, the only thing that was bothersome to me and many people that have said this is that they used too much CGI for the thing. You know. Yeah. Now originally the idea was to use practical to completely honor the 82 movie, but the studio stepped in and all that bullshit and stuff like that. But the movie itself isn't bad, and you can tell they definitely tried to honor the Carpenter movie, because there were things that happened that you could tell they studied the Carpenter movie, because you see, like when Kurt Russell and Doc go to the Norwegian camp and they see the remains of the burns and the axe
and the dead guy in the
suicide.
chair.
Yes. So in the prequel, I mean, obviously it's not giving it away, but in the prequel, you see those things happen. And I kid you not, and I've seen the 82 movie way too many times. Well, actually not enough times, but the prequel did a hell of a job lining up all those little details.
All right,
really did.
Well, then I'll take back saying shitty, but I'll check it out maybe.
Yeah.
They honored it very well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I read recently that somebody wrote a short story called The Things, and I forget who the author is. It was a recent one, and it's from the perspective of the alien.
I heard that.
And he's like, and the alien's basically like, well, why are these guys hurting me? Like, why are they, like, I'm just doing what I'm doing. Why are they setting me on fire and stuff like that? I don't think it's written as a comedy, but it's just the thing doesn't understand why these guys are attacking him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because it's not. So from that perspective, it's not a malicious or malevolent being. It's just doing what it does.
Yeah,
well, that would sort of undo
like
the whole. That would sort of undo the whole apocalypse concept. So I'm not sure that it's suddenly this whole benign, sort of, it's just a innocent microbe. Why are you bothering me over here?
Yeah.
Apocalypse, though.
Well, double dumbass to you too, Yeah. Hey.
At the end of this movie, don't they both just freeze? Are we supposed to assume that someone's going to eventually come and find them and start the cycle and wipe out the Earth?
I don't know.
Or like,
you would have to think that someone.
Thing's supposed to end.
It's a government station.
Or was the apocalypse averted?
I think it ends with, honestly, the way I think it's there's nothing good in this movie. It's a very gloomy, dour movie. Yes. And there's no happiness in it anywhere. There's no I don't think there's any hope for Childs and McCready at the end. I mean, the whole place burned down. I mean, unless somebody's flying over and they see the big fiery mess from the station, but they're screwed. I mean,
they are.
What I'm saying is there really an apocalypse in this movie? If they're going to stay up in or down in the Antarctic and freeze, then the rest of the world doesn't get infected like the bad 8-bit computer graphics showed.
Right, but it's not into the wild. I mean, it's a government station, so they're going to realize sooner or later that no one's heard from anybody at this station for a number of weeks, and once the storm lifts, somebody's going to come and get them. That's the common sense sort of solution to things. Now,
and by the time we get to over again,
and presumably not to any better outcome. By the time we get to the second movie, again, the apocalypse has sort of been averted, but you're left strongly with a strong impression that it's really only been delayed by a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. This inevitable thing, because it's the apocalypse. Like, you can't really avert the apocalypse. It's just, it's coming, maybe you can kick the can down the road, but, I wouldn't bet my grandmother on it.
To backpedal a minute about these guys.
Hey, Marty.
About the the audio play of the thing perspective. Oh, that's discussed with the human brain. That's interesting. I remember the video game. The video game actually has McCready in it. Yes. So he survives in that. Right. But I was going to backpedal a minute to what Bill was saying about them freezing to death and that being the end of it. Also, remember, if it's this little particle thing, let's say somebody comes by to inspect it, they get infected. Just because it's frozen doesn't mean it's dead.
Right.
I mean, this thing goes on and on and on and on and on, unless they burn both bodies and then it's dead.
I'm assuming that in each movie, and I mean, we can get into it more next week when we talk about Prince of Darkness, that the apocalypse has come.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now in various forms, in this case, a microbe, and the second, you've got, an antimatter, like Satan is like, the leader of an antimatter universe. And then the third one, which is, some argue is better than The Thing. Some people argue that The Mouth of Madness is, the best movie of the trilogy. It's a hell of a flick, and I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in a while, so I'll have to really sit down and prepare for that. It's a serious movie. It's a serious movie. People consider Prince of Darkness to be the weakest of the three. It's actually my personal favorite for my own reasons, but it's a hell of a thing.
Now, I will say that of all the characters, it wanted to freeze. Nice.
That's right.
Good observation. Also, the one thing I have to say, I like how we saw every character pretty much die except for poor Knowles. Poor Knowles, he has like an off-screen death. Oh, him, and that's it. And I don't know if at that point they were just trying to wrap the movie up, or they couldn't think of a cool way to kill him. But it's like, poor Knowles didn't get his due. But
Right.
you know,
be an homage to all those '50s movies where you never see the death. All you see is
Yeah.
like a leg shaking and
Yeah, yeah.
something.
It could have been a
Yep.
homage to the original. I mean, again, I've never seen the
Yeah.
original, but
Yeah,
how
the
many?
original was good.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Did they have like the characters getting killed on screen, or was it because it's the '50s they did it off screen?
From what I remember, well, a lot of it was kind of off. You know, they didn't have it right in your face. You know what I mean? I remember watching that when I was a little kid at my grandmother's house. You know, it was definitely cheesy '50s.
Well, he was like, and wasn't the thing? He was like a plant creature or something like that.
It was like Frankenstein made out of plant.
Exactly. So it wasn't really the imitator, and that's one thing that John Carpenter, because he loved that movie. I mean, if you watch Halloween, there's that scene where they're watching, you know, scary movies when Laurie Strode is babysitting, and you see
from outer space,
the thing.
Yeah.
So he was a huge fan of the movie, but what he wanted to do with his version is be truer to the story and have the alien be the imitator.
Yeah,
you know, that was a huge part of what he wanted to do, and luckily Rob Bottin was able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, that's the thing. It's just, it's just such a cool movie, and it never gets old. You can watch it plenty of times. You know what happens, but
well, you know, go ahead.
You're always glad to see it. You always, you know what happens, but it's like it's always happening for the first time.
And all of those movies that overshadowed it have fallen along the wayside.
Yep.
All of maybe not the Wrath of Khan.
Right.
Well, you mean from that year? Yeah.
From that year. Yeah. Like we're not going to be doing a trilogy on E.T.
Right.
You know, like fucking Christ, Jesus.
Although I would like to see somebody do like
guns out of the thing.
I think it would be funny if somebody did a mashup like of E.T. but like the Thing. That would be funny. You know,
I bet you someone has.
Yeah. But I don't know, and it's interesting too. I read that when they filmed the scene, you know, where Copper gets his arms bitten off, that they actually used a double amputee for that and put fake arms on him. So that when, and I guess he just died of a heart attack, I'm assuming, because he would just like went to do that. He got his arms bitten off and was dead all of a sudden. So I'm guessing he had a heart attack.
Well, he had his arms bit off. I don't think it had anything to do with heart attack.
Well, you know, but no, but it's you know, that's the thing. I mean, it's just it's a masterpiece, I think.
It is.
You know,
it really is.
It still holds up. The effects, it's, you know, and I think I always kind of underestimated Wilford Brimley, you know, because he's the Quaker Oats guy and the diabetes guy. That's it's and I never really saw, other than Cocoon, I never really saw him in anything else. So seeing him,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, seeing him in the Thing and as the bag, I was like, okay, he's good. You know, he's doing the part.
He plays a good villain. He was a good villain in Coppola's The Firm.
Oh,
good point. Yes,
he was the mob heavy. He was the mob heavy, and he's just completely unlikable. Like his appearance, and he's short, and he's sort of, you know, got this Quasimodo thing going on, you know, and he just wants somebody to punch him in the face. You know, he's like perfectly cast for it. But I mean, he has a long list of credits before he started to, you know, come to our attention. Marty's got a comment.
Oh, blood loss. That's a good theory. He's talking about Copper.
Yeah,
dying from blood loss. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But
so go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's 40 years later almost. We're still talking about it. I'm sure we're gonna watch it. I'll probably get one more viewing in this year. I'll definitely be watching it next year. You know, I've owned it on
next year. It'll be 40 years. Yep.
Yeah, I've owned it on VHS. I've owned it on DVD and now Blu-ray. Yeah. And, you know, if there's another format, I'll probably get it at least one more time, you know, before the, you know, before that's it.
I've got like 4 versions of this movie. It's ridiculous. You know, it really is. I've got 2 DVDs. I've got the Blu-ray. I've got the Scream Factory Special Edition, which, by the way, is amazing. It has so many great special features.
Cool.
I actually watch the special features called oh gosh, what is it called? It's like the Shape, Terra Takes Shape.
Okay.
And that documentary in and of itself, it's on YouTube. You can find it anywhere, I'm pretty sure. That documentary is like an hour and a half or so long. I've spent a lot of time just watching that because it's so interesting to hear the behind the scenes. It's got interviews with everybody, Carpenter, Boateng, Kurt Russell, the whole cast, pretty much. It's fantastic if you're a fan of it.
Whatever happened to Boateng? Did he do anything else after that?
Oh, yeah. He did RoboCop.
Oh, he did RoboCop. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, RoboCop. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He did Total Recall.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he did some other things. He became a little disingenuous. You know, he kind of pulled back from Hollywood a little bit.
Oh, I see.
After a while, you know, I think. But fantastic skills.
Yeah, because I mean, I always, you know, when you think of special effects, the Noose. Oh yeah.
Yes.
I remember the Noose.
Marty, that's a good call, Marty.
Kill himself, but then you realize the lower stuff under the show. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, to lower things into Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good observation.
We got Eric here. Wilford Brimley was a hunter in his personal life, and they used real animal organs during the autopsy. He was the only one not grossed out. It was just another day at the office. Well, man, who knows? Maybe Wilford Brimley was the real tough guy. You know, like the tough guy. You know, it wasn't Kurt Russell. It was Wilford Brimley.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's funny. No, I was saying about like with the special effects, you know, I always, you know, you always think of Rick Baker or Stan Winston as the go-to guys. Yes. And I think Boateng is kind of fallen, like you said, he kind of got away from Hollywood. He's kind of fallen under the radar, so to speak. And you know, this is and I think this was his first job, if I'm not mistaken. His first big job.
Well, he worked on The Howling. And that's
he did Howling. Okay.
Yeah, that's what actually kind of put him on the radar for Carpenter, because originally Rick Baker started working on The Howling, but a few years before that, John Landis wanted to have him work on American Werewolf in London, but John Landis had to wait a little bit of time to get, you know, the script together and all this type of stuff. So Rick Baker said, well, I'll work on The Howling, and he's kind of started some of the ideas and stuff for The Howling. But then John Landis was upset because he's like, well, I don't want you to use the ideas that we talked about in The Howling. I want you to use them in Werewolf in London. So he brought Rick Baker back over to American Werewolf in London, and Rick Baker had Rob Bottin finish up The Howling, kind of take it over, because Rob Bottin was his protege. Rob Bottin was a protege of Rick Baker when he was like in his teens, like when he was like 16, 17. He became like an apprentice. And so The Howling was really Rob Bottin's, you know, calling card, and got the attention of some people, and Carpenter saw that and then said, we got to go with this kid, because he was young when he worked on The Thing. Yeah, he was only like 20, 21 or 22, something like that.
Jeez.
Yeah,
it's amazing how young some of these guys get started. You know, I had Steve Langford on a couple of weeks ago, and he got started like right out of high school. And you just from one project to the next, these guys have just been so lucky or blessed, or however you want to put it. But I mean, you know, just the whole career doing this type of work, and you know, it's just it's the most awesome thing.
Savini too. Savini's been in there for forever. Yeah. Tom Savini. I mean, geez, he probably started pretty young too.
Yeah,
he's a grandfather now. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about CGI artists like this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
all right, hold on. We got one last. I think we're getting to a point where we can close out, but it says, night will you pick up the new McCready figure?
Oh man, I would love to, Marty. Marty knows I love The Thing, man. I definitely would love to. Absolutely.
Yeah, NEC is a good company too.
It is. It really is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's cool.
Well, I think that's a good place to sort of wrap it up. Guys, let's see. Knight, do you want to tell them where they can find your content now? Do you want to talk about? Hello.
Yeah, you just go to yeah, you just go to the Night Watch Zone on YouTube, and that's where you'll find me.
Cool. All right.
Bill, do you want to talk about the show?
All right. Well, my radio show's wrapping up. This Friday is my last episode for now. I won't be back on until Christmas, but you can hear all the shows at mixcloud.com/Gobstopper.
And do you have a spot on you on a Spotify list?
Oh yeah, we got the Spotify playlist. That's a Jazz Spotlight Gobstopper. Every jazz artist that I've played over the last 6 months on the show in a Spotify playlist for your enjoyment.
Okay, cool.
Ryan, you got to start to get some content going, man.
Yeah, I'm just a regular schmo here. I don't have a radio show or a podcast. I'm just really into movies.
Anymore.
I love movies. So, and you know, it's funny because when Mike first asked me to do this stuff, I mean, I'm not a huge horror fan, but I do like, obviously, The Thing is one of my favorites. And in one of our earlier shows, I said, you know, Psycho is my all-time favorite. You know, so some of them I do appreciate. I mean, so it's good to have these kind of discussions. But I mean, I could talk about movies all day. I love movies. So
I was lucky because I got Ryan in on the double feature for Nosferatu. We did 2 for 2. We did Murnau's and Herzog's. And then what else? Ravenous. We did Ravenous, and what else?
Was that those are the only 2 I've done so far.
We might have done something else. Bill and I, we did the Blair Witch Project, Todd Browning's Dracula. We just did Creature from the Black Lagoon. Night, you and I, we got a chance to do Ritual, and then again A Dark Song. Holy shit!
Yes, A Dark Song. Yes,
what a movie that was. If anybody out there is listening now, Coriander, Marty, Eric, check out A Dark Song. That's just a hell of a movie. It
is. Absolutely.
Holy shit, it just totally takes you off guard with how fantastic. All right. Thanks to everybody for stopping by. We'll be back here tomorrow. Marty and I are going to go at it with Jeepers Creepers, part 1. So that's going to be interesting, and the profanity is going to fly. I'm a little more measured with you guys, but with Marty, it just starts right off, and it's like you know, it's not a problem. It's not a problem.
Marty's
awesome. Yeah, he is. And then I'm going to be unleashing a new Something Shitty This Way Comes, where I take a movie that people think is really good, and I just totally fucking crap on it. And this week it's going to be Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah. So I'm going right at it. So I'll be releasing the date for that down the road in a couple of days. But tomorrow night, me and Marty going at it with the Jeepers Creepers. Thanks for stopping by, everybody, and we'll be back next week with part 2 of the trilogy for John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. Guys, stick around for a second after the outro.
Okay.